Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us for this special version of Attune virtual, but spotlight on retail. We've been looking forward to this one. We will, as everyone is joining us, I see we have a great audience so far. As everyone is joining us, let's give everyone a minute. And I would love to go over the agenda as we're getting started. Let's see. There we go. Okay, let's do this. Let's set the stage. It is 10 a.m. if you are in the Eastern time zone in the US. Definitely look at those numbers and fill in for your own time zone. I know it's actually 9 a.m. where I am. Sonia, I think it's 7 a.m. where you
7
are.
a.m. here in California. Good
And for
morning, y'all.
Will, yeah, for everyone who I know is joining us from the UK, from London, I know you are 3 p.m. So thank you everyone for coming in. This is what our order looks like today. We'll be talking about retail best practices. We're going to be showcasing your frontline employees, operational comms with Wawa and Tesco. We'll spend about 30 minutes there. And that one, our first one, will be more of a panel style. So that will be me kind of going back and forth with Colleen and Will from Wawa and Tesco. And then we're going to pop it over to Sonia, who is going to be talking with our partners at Big Lots. And they're going to do some deep dives into a more formal presentation. They're going to be looking at their business outcomes they've been able to achieve with their communication strategies. And I love it. I think there are lots of screenshots in that one, lots of good numbers. So looking forward to that as well. Throughout, if we have time permitting, we will be taking questions live. And by that, I mean verbally, but please, everyone, put your questions in the chat or the Q&A. We have several of us from the Firstup side who will be answering. Also, you're welcome to answer each other questions. We want this to be a very interactive conversation. And then we'll close from there. So yeah, we have a lot of things packed into the next hour plus. So let's go ahead and get moving. Go ahead and we will start off with a poll. So on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being the highest, how would you rate the level of engagement for your frontline employees? And let's see. I actually think this says poor, fair, good, very good. So of course we all know exceptional, meaning you are out of this world. Your frontline employees are super engaged. You've been doing the best comms ever. Go ahead and let us know where, oh no, okay, let's see. I'm looking at these results and the first thing I saw is that we have some people who are saying poor and fair. I hate to hear that. Understandable. We all know kind of where we stand with frontline employees. It's kind of hard to reach them, but that's exactly what we're here to do. Oh, look at this. Interesting. I'm scrolling down and seeing, I do not see anyone who has selected very good or exceptional.
Communicators are like the hardest judges on themselves, aren't they?
I agree because I can see some of our people, our audience members, and I know that there are several of you who are having some good success with reaching your front line. But I guess this is a great, honest place to start. And this is definitely the reason why we're talking about this topic today. So very excited to have Sonia here joining me. I didn't get a chance to introduce myself. My name is Kyla Turner. I am Senior Strategy Advisor here at Firstup, and I am joined by Sonia Fiorenza, who is our SVP and really customer evangelist, which I think is the coolest title. So you have us today because not only are we seasoned communicators here with Firstup, but we also have backgrounds in retail. Mine with Love's Travel Stops. Sonia spent years with Gap Inc. So we both understand some of those challenges that you alluded to, and some of also the joys of getting to interact with your frontline operations and your employees and really seeing that connection when all of that comes together. So we thank you for being here. I see we have lots of retail industries represented in our audience, but also some who you might not be completely retail, but I will call you retail adjacent or similar industries. We know healthcare, manufacturing. We've got a lot of our customers out there who are really looking at connecting with your frontline, people who are working every day of the week at all times of the day and all shifts. So that is what we're going to dive into today. All right, we all know the importance of this. We know that this is the reason why we do it. The organizations who are able to connect and engage with your frontline employees see all kinds of benefits. The biggest ones, these big outcomes of greater profitability and less turnover and higher Glassdoor reviews, and definitely those benefits to stakeholders. So we know better than anyone the impact of the communications that we are delivering. So we are going to pop over and get started. So we have a panel going with our two representatives. We have Will Helt from Tesco. We also have Colleen Labick. She's with Wawa, and I think we've lost her for a second. So Colleen's going to jump on and join us on our virtual panel. But Will, that's a great segue to start with you. I'd love for you to give an introduction. Tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, and about Tesco.
Yeah, absolutely. And hi, everyone. Thanks for having me here today. So I'm Will Heald. I'm Director of Colleague Communications at Tesco. For those who don't know about Tesco, we're the largest retailer in the UK, but with operations in Europe and other parts of the world as well. Background in grocery retail specifically, and also as a result, like many of those on this call, a large employer in the UK. We've been a Firstup customer for just over a year and having loads of great success working with the platform, which we have kind of adapted and call News and Views within Tesco. And we've rolled it out not just in the UK, but in different markets as well. And yeah, really excited to talk today about how it's gone and how we're approaching it, because it's made a really big difference to how we're engaging with our frontline colleagues.
Love to hear that. And I'm hearing the same thing on the other side, is all the success that you're having with News and Views. So it is very exciting to have you here also. We're going to dive into some of the things that you've seen as best practices. And I think we are working to get Colleen online. So Colleen, if you could hear us, jump in. If not, let's see. Okay, let's go ahead and just keep it rolling with Will, because I know you've got a lot to share. We were going to jump in kind of from the beginning when talking about, you rolled out your platform. You are seeing such great success. And this is a question I get often when I'm working with our customers is, great, you've gotten approval, you were going to roll out this platform, you build it, you get to launch, and then everyone has this question of, how do we get, we're really talking mobile app for reaching our frontline employees. That seems to be what's the easiest. But people say, how do we get our frontline employees to want to download a work app to their personal devices, especially when it's voluntary? They're not going to be compensated. It has to be something that they want to do. How did you approach that, Will?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. And there's probably two places that we started in. One is before we launched. So we knew we wanted to roll out a platform and work with Firstup. But before we went from that stage into the full launch, we really spent a lot of time understanding what our colleagues were telling us about maybe what we weren't delivering at the moment and what they wanted us to deliver more of. And, as the slide that I think is up at the moment is possibly showing, or will be coming up, is, a lot of the messaging we got coming through was around actually value. One of the things we really pride ourselves on at Tesco is that if you're a colleague with us, there's a whole range of benefits that you get from being there, whether it's discounts on your shopping, the kind of health and well-being benefits. There's a whole package, but actually there was not really one clear place that was being pulled together. So there's a real opportunity to take all the good stuff we were doing, just find a better way to package it up, have a bit of fun with it, and bring it to colleagues. So one of it was understanding where we really needed to lean into. The other was actually slightly more boring approach, but was absolutely critical, was we had a really long run up to launch, because one of our worries was if the business was too cold to us launch. It's quite a big change going from the system we had before to this one. So we actually spent a long time, several months, warming up different layers of the business to what News and Views was about, why we were doing it, what the benefits were. And that was a really informative stage where that dialogue back and forth with distribution colleagues, store colleagues, office colleagues, different markets and areas, we gained a lot of understanding about actually there are different use cases and things we needed to play on in different areas. And it meant we could have a plan where we actually, for tech purposes, made the platform live slightly before the official launch date on a Monday. So it went live on a Sunday. And actually, because people were so warmed up, I remember looking at the numbers on Sunday, getting ready to look at where I needed to. And we already had several thousand people had used the platform because they'd been sort of waiting to see it get launched and come. And that's one of the things that really helped us launch with success, is making sure we were launching it into a warm audience who really understood the benefits and what we were trying to do with it.
I really love that intentionality that you went into it. I think, of course, we're all thinking you have to plan in advance, but I love how you brought in different people throughout your business. I have seen it both ways. I've seen it, everyone's focusing on comms and we've got to really build this out. I love how you actually went out and brought in, we always recommend a test group. You really went broader and wider and got those use cases. And I think that's super helpful. I also like that kind of warm entry. That's one of the things I say whenever we launch a platform is it's surprising. I think in communications, we're so used to controlling that message and saying, this is exactly how we're going to roll out at this date, this time to these groups. But that is something about this platform. It's different and your comms are going to be different. So if you open it up and you've already created that excitement, it's interesting to see it grow organically. And I like how you embrace that. You kind of opened it up in advance. People were already coming in, and then you did the more formal rollout after that. Yeah. I think that's key.
We did do a test market as well. It's a good reminder. So we launched in June. We did a test in Ireland where we went out live to an important group of colleagues, but a subset of our overall. So between what we learned there and then that kind of warm-up period between March and June. But, our principle was no one kind of knows their colleagues better than, say, a store manager knows their store, or a store director knows their store managers. So rather than us try and put something onto them, we just harnessed everything they were saying. But you make a great point about it being a different approach, because we really wanted to go more like a social media approach. Before, we were quite corporate with an intranet, and it did a job, but it didn't get that engagement and that coming back. And to really get colleagues downloading onto a phone and checking regularly, we wanted to change up some of our imagery, how we approached it, have a bit of fun with it. And that was a mindset shift. So actually, a lot of the time, a lot of colleagues were asking, what should I use this for? What am I kind of allowed to do on the, should I be just posting? And we were quite liberal and open in saying, yeah, we want to hear from you. We haven't had many problems on the platform at all, but we definitely came in from, let's start super relaxed in terms of people being allowed to post with some kind of key principles. And then if we need to step in and there are any issues, we can go from there. But actually, we haven't. And it meant it was much easier to say it's just like other social media platforms. Share what's on your mind, share things of interest. But it was a mindset shift that took time to embed.
Yes, I do hear that. I agree with you. I think that's what really drives us to success, is showing people how this is going to be different. It's a different way of communicating. So I like how you adjusted your comms approach to that. More visuals, you probably have more video, more kind of that short, snappier, and then also opening up, because we all know social media, that's a very clear two-way conversation. So I like how you did that too, of you're going to be a part of this. You're not just going to receive information, you are going to be able to share your voice as well. I think that's important. And also, I do like, when you said you kind of looked around at what are all the benefits of this? What are the rewards? And you had said you packaged those up, and I know you called that, did you call it your value vault? And you kind of made that a thing to get there.
We wanted really early to get recognition and also to sort of drive the habits we were hoping for. So, our whole premise was there's really important things we want colleagues to see and to know. So there's a certain level of usage we think we need on the platform. So we have to really have a comms plan that's giving people a reason to come in on that basis. So we were really looking at kind of weekly. And so one of the things we launched really early, we got real clear insights that value is a really key thing. What value do I get from being a colleague at Tesco? How can that come together? So we packaged it all together under a brand of this thing called the Value Vault, with the whole premise being, the vault unlocks, and here's all of the value in it, all the surprises and prizes. And there's a couple of examples that I've got on the slides there. But what we were trying to do is it's a replicable brand. So just over time, every week, every month, new things were coming out to build that habit to say, whether it's big savings for little ones, so our kids event, whether it's a fun thing about reward partners that we already had, but we just maybe weren't telling colleagues enough about. Here's some reward partners you can use. And we also found aligning to key moments. So obviously payday was a time we always knew we got spikes on our platform. People check their pay slip, people look at the rewards, gateways, people. So really tying into right, it's payday. Here's a bonanza of kind of things for you and different pieces. So yeah, we built some brands. The other one was Store of the Week. So we had a lot of recognition going on at kind of localized level. Store directors would recognize colleagues. We had a few formal award schemes, but we didn't have a really good way just to recognize any colleague anywhere and bring them to life. So we started this Store of the Week format where we would take a store, we would profile it, we'd ask the colleagues, we've got a replicable system, we'd ask colleagues to fill in some of it's serious, what's the shop like, how's it doing, but also fun ones. So, in St Andrews, which is famously where Prince William and some of the royals went to university, we had a store there, so there's a play around. We've got some famous guests who've used our store and famous customers and have come in. So we want to bring a bit of character and humour, and we put it on to the colleagues to say, tell us about yourselves, this is your chance. And it got really popular, and once a week being able to profile that, colleagues were really interested to see what other colleagues were doing across the business. So colleague correspondence, another one that we do. So this is the idea of we have someone in our team who sort of goes and interviews people. And again, we have some regular branding so people know, oh, here's another one, but it'll be leaders. We did one, with a .com driver sitting in the van, going through a typical day. So we rolled out with some pretty recognizable kind of brands that we built up that then have helped us kind of build that repetition of, it's the next Store of the Week, it's the next Value Vault, it's the next colleague correspondent. And yeah, it's worked really well and built that recognition.
Again, I just love that intentionality that you had a plan for launching and then keeping their attention by keeping them coming back for more. And I like that you had titled these into specific campaigns. You knew you were going to do Value Vault. You knew you were going to do this piece on, who's out and about and the day in the life of. And so something that they know that they could always come back for and see regularly. And I'm a huge fan of, I also did this when I was at Love's, is that, you never knew who's going to walk through that door. And so I understand that piece of, snap a picture, what things are going on in your location. It could be celebrities walking in. It could be even just internal celebrities, I'll say. It could be, one of your leaders walking in the door or walking on location. And I feel like if you're empowering your associates to snap a picture and upload that and say a little something about it, it's fun, but it also taps into that pride. It's, pride that they have in their location, pride that they have in their job, and then they're sharing that out. So there's a lot to say there about how that fosters engagement and connection and, your culture and everything beyond. It sounds like that's some of what you're seeing.
Definitely. And early on as well, we sort of launched, because one of the jobs we worked out earlier is we're going to have to kind of get people comfortable with using the platform and different things. So we had some competitions really driving, let's get people used to liking things, commenting different. But one of them was a real use case, is a chance for colleagues to recognize each other and to share, such kind of joy in the business in terms of when you go into stores and the energy and enthusiasm. So we launched Thank You Thursday as an early thing, which was kind of every Thursday, thank a colleague who's played an important part in your week and your role. And actually we've stopped doing that formally because it kind of took on from there and colleagues started doing it, but it's become a huge part of our use cases, user-generated content of colleagues recognizing a community they're supporting, a charity, bike ride, a great piece of work in a store, a work anniversary, anything like that. So just trying to find ways to build the kind of habits and encourage colleagues. But I'd say the joy and the fun is the key. It's so different to an intranet or something like that. It's somewhere where you can have a bit of fun, test and learn. And the other thing I'd say is the insights on the back end. So, you can learn very quickly, okay, we thought this would work. It's not actually doing what we thought. Let's course correct and look at something different. And as a bit of a kind of nerd on that stuff, and, the team joke about it, I sort of love being in the kind of back end of it, working out what's going on, posting on a Thursday versus a Tuesday. And so it gives you loads of scope to understand your colleagues much, much better in terms of how they consume information.
I agree. I love that. I love that you're testing it. And I kind of also working with that, recognition content, I feel like is always going to get engagement. And I know you do a good job of balancing, I'll call it the meat and potatoes, kind of like the things that they need to hear, or the vegetables, along with the things that they want and the desserts. So I feel like you do a good job of that and keeping a monitor on that of what's performing well that they need to know and what's performing well that they want to know.
Yeah,
Good.
definitely. And I think it's always that challenge, isn't there, that you have good ideas in the team of what you want to put out. And I think sometimes, you can get to a stage where you think, oh, we think this is a good idea, we'll put it out. I mean, the great thing about the Firstup system and news and views that we've got is there's instant live feedback, and over you don't need a long period of time before trends start emerging and you can work it out. So we've just done a big 1 year review, and actually all of this stuff that we've shown we're really proud of and we're good, but the content output we had last year won't be the same this year. And we've worked out, if year one was all about trying to drive registrations up and get people on, and we had real success with that, with kind of over 70% of people in our business trying it and giving it a go. Year two is, right, how do we further embed habits, get people using it on a regular basis? So again, it's just helping us evolve our strategy on a constant basis.
I love that. Yeah, love that eye on growth and kind of what is coming next and how can you keep growing. Love that. And I think that we do have Colleen, at least on audio. So I hate that we can't see you in person, but love that we still have you able to speak with us, because Colleen, I know, just like Will, you were also, you started in a certain way to get people involved and wanting to download your app, which I love. You've playfully named the Honker, which is wonderful. That in itself gets people kind of excited and involved. Tell us, Colleen, about your, from the beginning, how did you get people on their front lines wanting to download your work app to their personal device, and then where'd you take it?
Yeah, well, good morning, Kyla. Thank you for that introduction, and sorry for the video difficulties. As Kyla said, I'm Colleen Labick. I've been with Wawa 15 years. I oversee internal communications and engagement. So my team focuses mainly on how to share news and updates with our associates in fun and exciting ways that keep them engaged and feeling connected to our culture. For those who don't know on the call, Wawa is a chain of over 1,000 convenience stores on the East Coast. So you can walk into a Wawa, find the latest and greatest fresh food and beverage offerings, but beyond food, you get this kind of experience, a unique atmosphere where people hold the door open for one another, and they kind of create this special bond in their neighborhood stores. So it's a really neat place. As Kyla had mentioned, our app is called the Honker because East Honk. And we have now had the app for 7 years. So we've been able to inform our associates through the app for those past 7 years. We first launched at an annual leadership meeting. So where those were attending, we had given them an in-app question. So they had no choice but to download and participate. And then after that, we incentivized all who downloaded, because we definitely believe in a little bit of bribery there. And anybody that downloaded the app received Goosebumps, of course, another geese reference. And that's our custom recognition system that allows associates to earn points and redeem them for exclusive Wawa branded merchandise and other prizes of their choosing.
Yeah, I think I like that. You put some fun in it. I always think that is one of my best practices. Get your leaders involved early, because everyone wants to be where your leaders are. And then, of course, I agree with you, giving away some things. A little bribery does not hurt. I did an informal study across our customers once, because I thought, is there a different approach that we can use here? Or is it always going to be that giveaways and prizes are still going to be king in terms of getting people in? And I will say, I am seeing that across the board. That, just like Will, you have a great strategy, you're getting your leaders in, you're being intentional. And then I am seeing, to be successful, you have to throw in some of the swag and some of that, we'll say, bribery or incentives to also download. Good deal. And then I know you've kept it going. Like you said, you've had this platform for multiple years. Will's kind of starting out. He's looking for growth. You've been through some growth. Tell us about best practices. What have you done over the years that has kept people coming back and kept this fresh and made it really your premier way to reach everyone and connect everyone?
Yeah. One of the ways we do that is we allow our associates to share their voices. Not only do we open up comments on the app, which I know sounds scary to some who aren't doing it, but we do monitor those, and we find that associates, when they start to leave them and are getting answers in there, they're not only feel like they're being heard, but that they're contributing to the business. We've actually taken that and really kind of rolled with it. We have a program called VOTA, and that stands for Voice of the Associate. And through that program, associates can submit their ideas and their questions, and we have an actual team that is dedicated to following up with each one of those. And as a result of this program, we've rolled out new products. We've had cost-saving initiatives, different ways of doing things, and this is just all because one out of our 50,000 associates spoke up and shared their idea. We've also taken those ideas, and like really championed them, and we kind of celebrate them further with videos and some in-person kind of things too.
Yeah, I think it's really great how you have left some of your decisions, things that you know that they would want to have a voice in, that really doesn't matter who makes that decision, maybe on your end, on the administrative end of detail for us. I think you've said, the different changes to their uniform or things that are going on in their store. You roll out and kind of get that crowdsourcing appeal or that vote. So then they actually see those changes happening and affecting them in a positive way.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And then another one I would say too is partnership has really helped us. So partnering with our internal marketing, PR team, social teams. Recently, we partnered with Jason and Kylie Kelsey, and that was all to gain some excitement around our annual Hoagie Fest promotion. And these types of campaigns can really increase positive internal perception and morale, helps associates feel proud. They foster a sense of pride in the brand's direction. And I'm not going to lie, we definitely saw it in the results. Our logins increased by 50%. Our viewing of posts increased by 72%, and our comments were just through the roof. So we're really trying to capitalize off of doing something kind of behind the scenes. We give them a sneak peek before it's announced to the entire public, and they start to realize that this is a place where they can turn for that insider information to feel connected.
Love it. I mean, you can't go wrong when you have a partner like the Kelseys. I see some in the chat about that. But I think that's also being intentional too, of working with your external comms team, like you were saying, marketing. So is that something that y'all work on together and say, this is our campaign externally, but we are going to make a very intentional campaign internally that plays off of that? How does that work when you're building that out?
Yeah, like I said, it has to be really strong partnerships because everybody's kind of going a mile a minute and doing really great work. So it's just having to put on that hat and thinking about what it's like for our associates to understand that news, what it could mean to them, and really kind of taking it and fine-tuning it in a different way that some of your partners may not be thinking of.
Yeah, I like that. Really tuning it in for your internal audience. And you do a really great job. You were telling us of that employee first or the associate first mindset of wanting them to hear it from you intentionally. Tell us about that.
Yeah, we have our CEO go on our app every week and usually give some kind of information behind the scenes, announces certain things in a way that feels just right to them. So it definitely builds excitement and it generates a lot of comments, and we just make sure that we are tuned into those comments and we are providing that kind of insider information whenever we can.
Every week. Did you say your CEO comes on every week? Now you have to tell us,
Yeah.
Is that something that your CEO really felt needed to be a priority? Did you talk them into it? How did that look?
Yeah, that was the benefit of having the app through COVID, with 50,000 associates and 90% being frontline workers. The app was the best way for us to communicate with them. And so we put a lot of updates around what we were doing during the pandemic through the app. As a result, people were listening. And once our leadership saw that, they said, hey, we want to continue to chat with them. And we realized this is the best way to do that. And so we've kind of got into this weekly cadence where associates are commenting directly to the CEO through his updates.
So is that something you see now more of? We're out of COVID but you're continuing those leadership comms. Is that something that you're keeping your eye on? And you thought, this is a great way to communicate during the pandemic. But now, are you seeing that engagement, those engagement numbers and your insights, and really seeing, oh, this is something we need to keep going because it's actually performing quite well?
We are still seeing engagement. I will say it's not on autopilot, right? It's up to us and our internal partners to make sure we're providing our CEO with what's happening so that he has the best information and is able to keep associates connected, for sure.
True. There's all that behind the scenes work. That's really us. The CEO gets to be the face, but so much of that is us, right? Well, let's take a couple of questions, because I see there have been some good questions that have come in. So I want to make sure we've got a few minutes left before we toss it to Sonia and our presentation with Big Lots. I love this one because I think this does come up. You have both said you've enabled two-way conversations. You allow your associates to post. You built that trust. It's going well. But when that happens, sometimes you get so much of that employee-generated content. Hillary asks, I would love to hear your thoughts on how you find that balance between all the fun stuff and still keeping a spotlight on the things that you need people to know. How do you make sure that doesn't get lost in the noise? Will, I'll toss that one to you first.
Yeah, sure. It is a big change initially because, for the first time, and what I'll say is the thing that really helps you is the way the platform's laid out. So you still, as central content creators, you have a group of people who are able to kind of spotlight and showcase key content in a certain area. And on the layout of the platform, it means we're really clear and we've got sections. So we've got an area called Essential News. So that's really clear. We can feature something, which means almost kind of pin it. So if you're a colleague going in, it will always come to the top. And then you have user-generated content coming in. But it was quite a big battle internally because some leaders and different colleagues would say, oh, everything's getting drowned out by the kind of colleague content. And I was saying, but that's amazing. We're getting organic colleague content coming through. And, we were very firm on, we'll have a look at things and we need to get that balance right. But what we absolutely don't want to do is turn colleagues off using this, because that would take us back to where we were before, which was just us on transmit and not receive. So simple answer is that the way we configure it allows us to have the control we need to flash up key pieces, but also give colleagues their voice.
Love that. Let's see. Let's go to a next question. This one I'm going to send to you, Colleen. Who manages those replies and comments on the CEO post? Lori Stewart is asking, because again, a lot of that falls on us. So is that someone on your team who's responding or has constant communication with the CEO to get those answers? What does that look like?
It's definitely a partnership. Our Firstup team is great, and they help us. They provide us kind of with a daily download of any red flags or top ask questions so that we can make sure that we are guiding those to the best team. And then internally, that is my team that is going and making sure that anything that needs a follow-up, they're working with the business partners on. We learn a lot as a result of it, and I think we're better for it.
I agree. I like that. I like that thought of, I know that when we had talked earlier, we all talked about, it can be a little unnerving, let's say, and mostly to our leaders when we say we're going to open this up and let people ask questions and let people make comments. And they really are concerned about, what if people start asking something we don't really necessarily want them to ask? And I like how you both have kind of embraced that and said, but that's important, right? So last question, just wanted to talk about the trust there and that enabling that two-way voice of how do you manage that? What have you seen? Have you run into any of those questions? How do you use that as a positive rather than letting it get to a negative?
Yeah, I think from the Tesco side of things, actually, we spent a lot of time talking before about what if we get this comment or that comment, or what will we do, and actually the bigger risk before launching is probably less that, because you might get a handful of things that you need to look at, but it's actually, are you set up to address colleagues now having a voice and coming back? Because actually the bigger risk is colleagues are giving you all of this great insight and all of these comments, and you're not going back to them like I think Colleen was saying. So I think we spend a lot of time worrying about, will there be a bad post or comment or so? And actually, if I had my time again, I'd be putting even more resource and support into our ability to go back to all of the comments and replies, because we get listening coming up in company surveys, really key thing we need to keep hammering. And that's the bit that's been probably more of the challenge, is making sure we can keep going back rather than anything, negative or challenging.
Love that. The focus on making sure you're there to intercept those questions and make sure you're there to respond. That's huge. All right, so I know we're about to toss it over. We're right on time. Thank you both, Will and Colleen. We're going to toss it over to Sonia and our Big Lots team. We're all going to go off camera and we will jump into the chat. So keep your questions coming. Thank you all, and excited to hear from Sonia and Big Lots.
Thank you so much, Kyla, Will, and Colleen. I know as I was listening, Joey and Matt, probably like I was just nodding and going, there's so many notes we could compare here that were so similar. So it'll be great to compare some similarities, but then also share some different things that the Big Lots team is doing. First, let's start with introductions. Matt, Joey, why don't you give me your best 1-minute intro, and let's start with Joey.
Hi, everyone. I'm Joey D'Amico. I am the manager of internal communications at Big Lots. I've been with the company now about 5 years, and it's been a lot of fun. Basically, in a nutshell, any of our communications that touch our more than 25,000 associates, I have my hand involved in, whether that's writing, editing, publishing the content. We also do some video work, so sometimes that includes production. It makes it a lot of fun. No day's ever the same. And also communicating to any of our key stakeholder audiences. So we kind of have 3 main audiences, we call them here. So our corporate headquarters associates, our store associates, and our distribution center associates. Also, philanthropy and events sit on our team as well. So I dabble in that space. So again, makes no day's the same. Every day we come in and there's something exciting to do.
Just a few things going on.
Yeah.
Matt, how about you?
Hey everyone, excited to be here. Matt Lang. I actually work in our talent development team here at Big Lots. So me personally, I'm responsible for all of our store and distribution center training, as well as our learning management system administrator. Our team globally also does all of our onboarding, professional development, and any of our CHQ training as well. So I've been with the company for 12 years now, 12 and a half years. And so I've seen a lot of changes and things like that come from especially the internal communication space. So super excited to talk about the beat and how it's helped drive our company forward.
That's great. Thank you, Matt. And if everyone's wondering, wow, you brought talent management to the table, we're going to tell you why. We've got some great stories there. So Matt, we'll get back to you in a bit. But before we do that, and before we dive in, Joey, for those who don't know who Big Lots is, why don't you tell us a little bit about Big Lots?
Yeah, we are a discount home store all across the United States. We have more than 1,000 stores in 48 states, 25,000 associates across our corporate headquarters, stores, and distribution centers. And it is our mission to help people live big and save lots. And we do that by providing awesome bargains and great value to our customers, not only in one of those 1,000+ stores across the company, but also on our e-commerce site, biglots.com.
Great. Thank you for that overview. I've got a Big Lots up the road here. And before we dive into hearing some of your stories about the beat, could you just tell us a little bit about, you started working with Firstup in late 2020. So tell us a little bit about what it was that you were trying to solve and why you even needed a Firstup platform at the time.
Yeah, so when I joined the company almost 5 years ago exactly, was 6 months before the pandemic, but we had already, the team had already started to explore a better internal communications and engagement platform. And the reason was our old internet was very limited. We had limited reach on with the channels we had available. So we could either communicate via email or on our intranet, but the only people we were reaching were those associates with an enterprise email. So a biglots.com email or a blstores.com email. And that was roughly anywhere between 8,000 to 10,000 of our associates. We have, like you see on that slide, 25,000 associates in our company. So we're missing a huge chunk of our associate population that we're not talking to directly. And if we were always trying to build this great culture is really important here. How can you do that when you're missing that big of a chunk? And especially, in my opinion, those are our most important associates, because they're the ones that are in our stores interacting with our customers every day. They're the face of the brand, and yet we aren't able to talk to them directly. So that was a big reason why we went down this path. And then I know Will and Colleen talked about this too, but the one-way engagement, we were pushing it out. We had no way to get any feedback or engagement among our associates to get a better understanding of what's resonating with them and what's important to them. Also, targeted and timely communication was a big thing. We all know, I think, as internal communicators, that if you're constantly receiving messages that aren't relevant to you or your role, you're eventually going to tune those out, and then you're going to miss the ones that are really important to you and your role. So this has allowed us, Firstup's allowed us to really target those communications down to a location level, role level, department level, and that's been a huge win for us as well. But also, honestly, I think the pandemic was a huge catalyst to push us forward, because retail already moves fast. We all know that, but then you throw the pandemic in there, and protocols and safety procedures are changing. It seemed like every minute, and we had no way to reach out to our associates. We were deemed an essential retailer, so our frontline workers were out there every day serving their customers in their community, and we needed a quick and efficient way to reach them. And then once we saw the capabilities and the functionality that Firstup offered, it was a no-brainer, and it's been great.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's amazing how many things happened during the pandemic that were things we were trying to do forever, and suddenly we had the catalyst to do it.
Yeah.
So and I completely agree with you, this idea that the workers that you could not reach were the ones that are talking to your customers every day. It's like, oh my gosh, what are we doing here? I know I experienced that when I was at Gap and trying to reach, those frontline employees in our stores. So how much of your workforce are you able to reach now?
Yeah, so roughly from 8 to 10,000, we fluctuate just the high turnover in retail anywhere between 16 to 20,000 of our associates. So we've more than doubled. And the big chunk of those associates are those frontline workers in our stores and our distribution center. So it's been a huge win. And I think it's even great too, because it's not a mandatory platform. It's not something that we require our associates to have. But so many, when we launched it, I think we did a pretty good job right off the bat with adoption and driving it, that we got to that number pretty quick. And we kind of feel that is sort of our, between that 55 and 60% mark is where we'll hover. We're always looking for ways to boost it, but we've sort of found that is sort of our ceiling. But we couldn't be happier with it, again, because it's not a required platform.
Yeah, the fact that it's voluntary is a testament to the fact that your associates want to be connected and get this news from the organization. So what do you think are the keys to adoption?
Yeah, for us, we, as you can see on this slide here, that photo on the left, that is our CEO. And from where he came from, he had a platform, I don't know, it was similar to a Firstup. So he sort of got it and understood it. And he did this really fun, off-the-cuff video to just really hype it up and promote it. So on the day that we launched, we sent out this communication with it. People clicked on it, they saw it, they got signed up, and he just had a lot of good energy, touted it, encouraged associates to get on it. And so once they're hearing from the CEO that how important and how excited he is about it, I think it made it easier for them to say, I need to be on this. And then also we really established we leveraged the relationships with our vendors to also incentivize this, right? So if you signed up, we had multiple phases. If you signed up within the first day or the first week, you were eligible to win this pool of prizes. And it was some pretty cool stuff, from TVs to PlayStation 5s to round-trip airline tickets. So really cool things that would entice you to get on it. We were able to leverage that and use those relationships with vendors to help secure some incentives. And then we also incentivized our district managers. We have 100 districts across the company, and we really incentivize the district managers by running a contest with just them based on adoption rate within their district. And the districts that had the highest one, we would then give a gift card or some prize to the district manager. But what was really cool about that, those district managers that won, they would turn around and kind of invest their gift card or whatever it was back into their store teams, which is really neat.
Yeah, that's cool. It turned it into a recognition event as well from the leaders. And then you started using, after that launch, it wasn't just the launch of, with the message from your CEO, which probably was the first time that many store associates even got a direct message from the CEO. But
Yeah.
tell me about how you've continued, because executive communications has been a big part of this from what you were telling me.
Yeah, so from day one, our leader at the time, he knew that it was really cool to have these awesome, the bells and whistles that come with Firstup in our communications toolbox, push notifications, the flexibility to do a video or image carousel, polls, those things that we never had at our disposal. But he always says, those are great, but it's really not anything if we're not enforcing business strategy and the things that are important to our leaders and the business with our associates. So we've always had that in the back of our head, and I think we've done a pretty good job of really driving our strategy through our platform. One thing that really worked, and we've been doing it about a year now, is you can see pictures on the slide. They're called the Big Update, and really what it is it's about once a week. Sometimes it fluctuates depending on meetings and things that are going on in the business, but we reach out to an executive and we schedule 15 minutes with them. We pop up into their office, no teleprompter, no fancy camera, no script full of buzzwords. We just pop in there. We give them a little heads up. We say what we're looking for. We ask them to provide an update on something that's going on in the business that they're really excited about in 1 to 2 minutes. And it's resonated really, really well with our associates. They're actually our top engaged posts in the platform. So now we can go back to our leaders and say, look, you may be seeing a lot of this cool culture building stuff, but the things that are really the most engaged are stuff that's really are the communications in these videos that tie back directly to the strategy and making sure our associates understand it. So we have 5 pillars in our company strategy, and we usually will leverage a leader whose work or whose functional area connects back into one of those 5 points. And we knock these out. If we're in their office more than 10 minutes, it's rare. So it's quick, and it's allowed us to be pretty efficient with it because we know that, if I were to go fish for a story and then kind of the old way of communications and write this article, get the buzzwords, get the jargon in there, get it reviewed by however many people need to see it, it could be a couple weeks later. And in the fast-paced environment of retail, is it even still applicable anymore to share that story? So this has allowed us to be efficient and quick and keep associates updated on the really important things that are getting us to where we want to be.
Was it hard to convince them to do these videos?
We started with our CEO. He kind of announced that, hey, we're going to start this series called the Big Update. And I think once it was easy for those who were a little hesitant, it was able to show, hey, here's a link to what Bruce did. And once they saw that, okay, our CEO is doing it, then I'm going to do it. And once we did a couple of them, the following people that we'd reach out to, I'd provide a link to it and go, this is all we're looking for, right? We're not asking you to dive into specific stuff, jargon. Because one thing I always level set is your audience for this is potentially all associates across the company. And so you don't want to dive too deep into marketing jargon or acronyms that they're not going to understand. Just give us a high level picture so anybody, regardless of their role or their location in the company, can understand what's going on. And so I think once they saw the first couple and how just casual and not formal it was, they've been bought in, and now we've cycled through them multiple times. So now when we say, hey, it's your turn to do the big update or provide this week's message, it's not really a challenge.
Awesome. And you mentioned before that you have something called your 5-point strategy, and that these big updates all tie to that. So it's all about tying to business outcomes. So let's share some examples, because I imagine that the fact that you were able to show some business results and I think even some cost savings that probably got their attention. So talk about some of the things that you're doing on the beat that drive those business objectives.
Yeah. So one of our pillars in our strategy is simply called drive productivity. And in a nutshell, what that is just finding ways for us to save money on things that maybe aren't critical, that then we can reinvest those savings into things that are going to drive the business forward. So we launched a program. It's called Save Big, and really it can be for any associate across the company. If they think of an idea, big or small, that could save the company money, you submit it. You share it, and then we have a task force or a committee here that reviews every submission that comes in. And the cool thing is, if there's any credible idea, they actually get, I think, in a pool to win some exclaim points, which points can be converted to gift cards, right? So they're getting something, but based on the amount that you could save the company, those incentives go higher, up to like, can be $10,000 in cash, right? If you hit this one that's going to save the company X amount, but also other fun things, gift cards, things like that. But what's been really cool about it is, since we launched it, once we were able to use the beat to reach more associates, we got 2 times the number of submissions than we did before the beat. And there's $1.1 million in identified savings opportunities. Not saying that all those were implemented, but there was up to 1.1 million in savings opportunities, which again, we could then take on some of those ideas and reinvest into the business, and more important areas that would fuel growth and fuel sales and things like that.
Okay, just let's pause for a minute. $1 million in savings identified, and that's all coming from your store associates or from associates across the organization who are closest to the business. They're the ones who know how these things are going to work.
Yeah, and it's simple things too that you would like. One of the store associates submitted hey, we can shorten our receipt tape, and you wouldn't think about it, but sometimes we go to stores and you get these receipts that are super long, and it's like, why is it that long, right? So there's like simple things that maybe I wouldn't think of, but those frontline workers who are seeing it every day, it's like, well, if we could save receipt tape, that's going to save on the rolls of paper, and how many of those across all, 1,000+ stores, that adds up to some money. So, there's some other bigger ones, but it could just be simple things like that. But when they calculated it all, there was over $1 million in identified savings opportunities for us.
That's great. And you're also using, just popping up another example, talk about some of the ways that you're using this to extend your business communications and business partners being able to leverage the beat.
Yeah, and I'll get to that. I'll dive into that too a little bit, but some of these other ones, right, are, so yes, there's a good example here. So the one on the screen that says Bargain Spotlight, our team has done a really good job. We have leveraged, so one of those pillars in our strategy is called Own Bargains. We want customers to know that Big Lots is the place to go for bargains and value. And so what we've done is we've partnered with marketing, and they give us videos every Friday. So what we're doing, we're getting in front of it. So every week we're sending out an email communication through the beat and also posting it on the beat. Everybody gets it for visibility, just so they know, but it's really meant for our frontline workers, our store associates, to get a sneak peek of, hey, these are the items that customers are going to see in their marketing emails from us. So get familiar with them. We call those little bullet points that are under the video bragging rights, right? So they can kind of get familiar with it. And those are simply just stats about the product, the savings they can get by buying into Big Lots versus another store. But it helps them be prepared. So if a customer comes in and says, hey, I'm looking for this bedding set or this patio set, they go, oh yeah, I saw that. I had, yes, let me show you. And then hopefully that drives a good customer experience. Because another one of those pillars is grow store or win customers for life. So then having prepared associates that are ready to serve our customers makes a lasting impression on those customers, and they're going to come back to Big Lots. But equipping them with the information that they need to drive sales and treat our customers well.
You hear people talk about that formula of an EX, employee experience, drives CX, customer experience. You're showing how we can do that by preparing your employees to be able to drive that customer experience.
Yeah, and then I think, I don't know what slide it is. There's another cool one that we've started to do. Yeah, that social buzz one. We can jump back to the other slide in a second, but this is a really cool one that's, I would say, within a month old. So again, all about focusing on that strategy pillar of owning bargains. Another one is communicate unmistakable value. And again, our marketing team really takes the effort in really building this communication in the beat. We've created communication ambassadors with these departments that we work regularly with, train them on the beat platform so that they can go in and build these. Since they're the subject matter experts, then we review it. We're the gatekeepers. We make sure it all looks right. But the social buzz one it's really a post that highlights the top 3 social media posts for the week. And not only are they seeing, some of the cool products that are being promoted on our social media channels, there's also links that they can then directly share those Big Lots posts on their own social network. So giving them kind of a voice for the company to be those brand ambassadors, and again, promoting and reaching more people to say, hey, come to Big Lots because you'll get these cool finds, you'll get these awesome bargains and incredible value. So that's been a really cool thing that's received a lot of positive attention around the company because they've seen us, how can we leverage what's happening externally, internally for our associates.
And then talk about things going cycles and, sort of a full circle here. If you talk a little bit about this feedback from the front that's also on this screen and what y'all have done with that.
Yeah, so that was something that's really targeted to those frontline workers. It would simply be, we do more formal polls and surveys throughout the year, but this was kind of a quick way to get just a pulse on what's taking place in our stores from those associates who are in our stores every day, not people at corporate who are assuming what's going on in our stores every day. We simply would pose a question and then ask them to comment, leave comments on that post based on the question. And one of the big ones we did, we were talking about our circular ads, those printed circular ads, and how are your customers using them, or do they like them? And basically the overall feedback is they don't use them, right? We use them as sort of glorified wrapping paper, tissue paper to wrap up anything that's breakable.
Oh no.
Maybe purchasing. And so what they did is they looked into it, and it was $10 million in savings that then our marketing team reinvested into more productive digital assets. So we never would have known that had we not asked that question through the beat, and it's something that we do regularly, and it's cool. We find some good insights there, but that was a huge win for us. And again, just a simple question, you'll never know what you're going to find, and again, engaging more of those employees that you can't reach. Previously, we probably never would have found that out.
Great. Well, let's bring Matt back in here because some of the things that you've been talking about are that, we're empowering other business partners because you're not necessarily the one pushing out every single one of these pieces of content. You've really enabled others to do it, right?
Yeah.
As I understand it.
Yeah, that's been a huge thing. So one thing I would set this up is, as internal communicators, there's so much that comes on our plate. And I think a thing that I struggle with is our team's pretty lean, is how do I balance? I'm getting asked to do all these things to drive strategy, but there's always some of these operational things, whether it's, hey, the cafe shut down or some of these other projects that come up. And it's not that they're not important, but how do I balance as an internal communicator driving strategy that I'm given direction from my leadership, but also ensuring that these other messages in other departments. So again, like I mentioned, we did communication ambassadors where we trained them. They've been great, but pretty much our number one user who just really adopted it so well and learn the platform is Matt here, and I won't steal his thunder. I'll let him share some of the cool stuff that he's doing from a talent development standpoint.
Yeah, so Matt, tell us about some of that.
Yeah, no, thanks, Joey. So our team really wanted to lean into helping, like Joey said, take some of the workload off, because we'd be constantly poking him, asking him, hey, when can we get on your schedule to release a communication? And that becomes a lot for Joey, right, over time, right? So trying to manage everything. So going and learning the platform, super easy to use. We were able to do things like market our big training initiatives. For example, on the screen here, we have something we called Leadership Days that we did a couple years ago. 2 weeks of learning, all around soft skill training, huge success. But the Beat allowed us to enhance our training, whereas, typically you just send out an email and then folks would sign up for certain classes they wanted to take. With the Beat, we were allowed to create an experience, which is really cool. So in addition to those classes that our team developed and facilitated, we also had podcasts, and we had different articles that we were able to involve business leaders with, and then kind of create this whole experience. And hey, we were able to market it all in one space, and it lives on, right? Because sometimes if you just send out an email with a link to something, it gets lost in the shuffle. Whereas now we had a place to store that and create something that was ongoing. From that, the next year, we did what we called development days, which is all around like technical skills, right? So learning Microsoft Teams in OneNote, learning Excel, using the Beat again, it became really successful, and we were able to create monthly cadences after that. So our team promotes everything through the Beat every month, and the classes just sell out super fast because I think people now expect it. They have a place to go. It's a one-stop shop.
So your classes, did they sell out before you had this? Was it a lack of awareness, or how?
Not necessarily. So I think I mentioned in my introduction, I also work on the learning management side, right? So one thing about our learning management system, and I'm sure others feel the same way, they're not always the most user-friendly. they're not the most mobile friendly. So again, people are just used to utilizing something that's easy, and if it's not, they just tend to not do it. So with the beat, things that just become easy. That's also helped us with releasing training that's not necessarily something we need to track in an LMS. With the beat, we can throw a video out there, not even for our CHQ audience, but for our store audience, and we can get information out to them faster and quicker, and it's just a better user experience for them as well.
That's great. And talk a little bit about this tip from the store and the furniture focus, because that was an initiative that, as I understand it, came from you.
Yeah. So the way that my learning management system, mine works is, putting people in buckets and kind of creating topics or audiences, which you can do in the beat as well. So we created a topic called the Furniture Forum for all of our furniture sales leads and all of our managers in the field, where they can get information that's just on furniture, whether it's a new product release, whether it's a training video. But it connects the field to the corporate headquarters as well, right? So we have our buyers that are involved with it. We have our furniture leaders. They can get on there and post those organic videos and those organic, hey, we just, got this great closeout deal on this specific piece of furniture. Look for it in your stores in the next 3 months. It's just a great, simple way to get in front of all of those associates, where, like Joey has kind of said before, they don't all have emails, right? So we never had an opportunity to get pointed information to them quickly and make sure that it was consistent across the board.
Right. And then allow them to learn from each other, right? We were talking about like this tips from a store manager. Somebody who works in another state might be able to teach you something because they're able to share the content.
Yep, absolutely.
Great. Well, we could probably talk for hours. In fact, Joey and Matt and I did talk for hours and told a lot of stories to each other and to try to think about what it was that we wanted to cover here. But we do, unfortunately, not have hours today. So I think I just want to move toward, as we wrap up here, what would you say all of these communications and initiatives have done for your culture? Tell us about that.
Yeah, Matt, and you could jump in here too, but I think we talked a lot about and showed great examples on how we're leveraging the beat to keep associates informed, inspired, and involved on our business, which is really important, right? Because we're all working to drive sales, and that is important. That should be the main focus. But another huge thing that is important to us is our culture and our people. Our CEO, Bruce, calls us all value creators. But what this platform has allowed us to do is to also, in different ways, celebrate and recognize our associates. We found we call it the secret sauce, is people, product, and prizes tend to be some of our most engaging posts. But really, when they see their coworkers, they love it. They celebrate. I mean, you can see some posts on here. This one, kudos to Cody. He was coming off a shift. He saw a situation out in front of his store, and because he acted quick, he saved someone's life, right? So we celebrated that. So we told that story. DEI is a huge part of our culture, and one of our leaders here authored a story, wrote his own story on what Pride Month means to him and being an ally and his journey through this from a father's perspective. Really cool. Humanizes these leaders, which is another huge thing this platform has allowed us to do, is to put some of these leaders that we may interact with all day or frequently that a lot of other people don't, to humanize them and to not just be seen as a leader with a title. Product spotlights over here. We do this usually sometimes twice a year, so spring, summer, but definitely when we go into the holiday season, it's our busiest time. We go into stores and we simply ask associates, hey, talk to us about your favorite holiday product. And it's funny. They have fun with it. They love it. And then they ask, when am I going to see that? Where can I find it? And it's on the beat. And they get on there and they celebrate each other. And then Matt, this last one is a really cool one too that kind of comes back to your learning and development.
Yeah, it's we're able to spotlight associates that have grown with the company, right? So it's a huge win from that perspective to say, hey, look, this person's been with us, they've grown, they've been promoted, and associates love to see each other recognized. And then just real quick to add on to that human piece as well, we allow our associates they get really jazzed about posting like product sets and things like that. So if we have, our new Halloween set comes out, they all take pictures of their sets, say super excited to sell this to our customers. So it creates that community around pride in their work and just, like Joey said, our frontline associates they leader culture, right? And they're able to kind of really showcase that within Firstup.
Yeah. One last thing, Sonia, real quick. I know we got to jump, but Matt kind of touched on it. I meant to show it on that previous slide, but we had a topic called value creators, and that's been a huge win for us, where we talked about empowering other business units like Matt, who gets in there and really builds their own communication. We also empower our associates. We have that topic, value creators. Our associate, like I just mentioned, calls all of us value creators. Anybody can post in the company into this, but it's really heavily used by our store associates. And to what Matt just said, they love taking pictures of their displays, their sets, their new product. If they don't have a SKU number for an item, they'll share it. Somebody from another store across the country chimes in and say, here's the SKU number for that. So it's built that community, but again, it's giving them that voice to take pride in their work and that what they're doing is being seen and being heard. And it's been a huge win also for our buyers, because we tell our merchants, hey, check out this topic, because you can kind of get an inside look on what your products are doing in store and how our associates are setting them up and displaying them. So that's been a really, really huge win for us. And Matt, thanks for kind of jogging that in my memory there.
I love that for so many reasons. Again, back to stores, associates helping associates, stores helping stores. But when you think about your buyers being able to get that feedback from the front line, I mean, before they'd probably have to go on store visits and, get out in the field and imagine the amount of time, which they still should do. And I know they do, but imagine the amount of time that takes. And you're starting to get that in a more organic way through the beat.
Yep.
Awesome. There was a question I meant to ask you at the start, and I didn't even prep you with this one, but I'm sure you know the answer. How did we come up with the name The Beat, and why do we call it The Beat?
So when we're thinking of names, right, a lot of stuff around here at Big Lots is big whatever, big something, big whatever, and our leader at the time is like, we're not putting big in the name of this platform. And so we threw out a bunch of names, and really The Beat was kind of this whole idea we're marching to the beat of the same drummer, right? We're all in this together, and that's kind of how that name came to be. But again, we were all brainstorming big news, big life, big whatever, and they're like, none of that. We have enough of that around here, so we landed on The Beat, and it's kind of short and catchy and punchy, and it's worked for us.
I love it. Well, we got the honker and the beat here today. So both great platform names that tie to the culture. If you all want to learn more about how Big Lots saved over $1 million, as Joey shared earlier, and identified that type of savings, there is actually a case study that we've done with one of our partners, Josh Burson, and you can download this case study. There's a QR code on the screen, so if you want to grab a screenshot of it, it should also be linked in the resources, and it's on our website. So I encourage you all to take a look at that. Joey, Matt, stay on camera here. Kyla, can you come back? Colleen, or if you're still there on audio, and I think that Will had to drop, but we'll bring everyone back if we can. And Kyla, I know you have been so active in the chat, so any questions that you're seeing or comments that you want to highlight that we should make sure that we cover off on while we still have everyone here?
I really like this one. I hear this a lot. It's from Hillary, and kind of a different direction, Joey, but it says, can each speaker share the size and perhaps how you structure your internal comms team? How does that look at Big Lots?
Yeah, so our internal comms team, we sit down in HR, and we're part of the HR function. But also on our team, we call our team, or it sounds arrogant, but it's not. We call our team Epic, Team Epic. We have events, philanthropy, and internal communication. So the three of us, we have two of us that do internal communications, one that manages our philanthropy, Marcus, my boss, he touches all of it, but really specializes in events. That's how we work. And like I mentioned at the beginning, most of my time is dedicated to internal communications, but we all sort of cross lanes and support each other a little bit. The next question that sometimes people ask is, our external communication partners, they sit up in marketing, but we do have weekly meetings with them just to align, to make sure that if they're doing something cool externally, like that social buzz stuff I showed, that we're aware of it, and how can we partner to amplify that internally, and vice versa. If we have a cool event coming up or something internally, what can they leverage from an external standpoint? So even though we're not on the same team, we're in the same function, we work really closely together to make sure we're in sync.
Yeah, I think that's key. I hear a lot from our customers. Sonia, I know you do too. I think you mentioned this too, small but mighty.
Yes.
Everyone has small teams, and so you really have to rely. I think that's great that Matt, you're so involved and you're really relying on others.
He's been a huge help. Definitely sanity at times.
And I've heard others say, small and mighty, and then also the example we've seen here today is that having this platform has allowed you to extend your reach, extend your impact, empower others, so that, again, Joey, you were talking about focusing on the big rocks that you need to focus on and all the other things that need to be done.
Yeah, it's allowed non-communicators by profession be communicators. And what's been funny for me, it's, Matt reminds me of this sometimes. It doesn't matter if the comma's not in the right spot, or this, maybe sometimes people, especially frontline workers, just want the information. And so sometimes I have to take that lens off of everything doesn't need to have, the buzzwords or the thing. And sometimes just get the information out is better than delaying it 2 weeks to make sure it's, buttoned up. So that's really helped in speed and agility and, helped me rethink communications in general.
I'm so glad to hear you say that. I think that aligns really well with what Will was saying earlier. Like, we have to change our mindset too, and the way people are consuming information. I'm the same way. I'm old school, and I want to comb over everything and copy edit and make it pretty. But I mean, I think the key is landing on those authentic communications from those local leaders or from your business unit lead, or I think all of those voices make an impact.
I always say that there's still a time and a place for the formal, long written articles from CEOs and leadership. That doesn't go away, but having the tools that In the Beat and the Firstup provides has helped us just be more creative and more fun and more natural and relate more to how people digest stuff today. Very mobile, very quick, and it's still a challenge for me. The team laughs that I'm so old school. They're like, Joey, come on, do it this way. It's faster and shorter. So they keep me honest, and I need that.
We're all going to start consoling each other by saying it doesn't matter if the comma's in the right place. I think that is a great piece of advice, Matt. Well, we are coming up on time here, and I just thank you so much to all of our speakers, to Colleen, to Will. Huge props to Colleen for sticking through it with some technical difficulties she had there. Talk about persistence. And Joey, Matt, thank you so much. Kyla, thank you for being my co-host today. As you have all learned from so many of the speakers today, the world's best companies, and we really do think we had the world's best companies on this call today, and who are using Firstup to communicate with their employees. And they're also delivering that personalized employee experience. They're getting the data and insights that they know how those communications are driving the business. So if you want to learn more, you know how to reach us. We're at firstup.io. And thank you all again for coming today. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.